Hi, this is Addison Jones, and I'm going to be doing my presentation on Wraparound by Alicia Wright. Wraparound. I thought that if we let it go, the property, the daisy field, the dog's small coffin, the Osage orange tree, its second trunk, held up by wood strands, her seashell tumblers, their fixed gin, the bomb shelter 40 concrete feet beneath the ground, we'd be unlocked. No holding pattern, we'd no reinvention. I thought in prying, open the framing, structure less the brickwork than the formal promise, the code untouched, the lavoured doors shot through with sun, integrity, slipped asleep. We'd know the home unhad is nothing, its shape of sorrow and our sunk now. I thought we'd be a we, but this despair has gashed the field of them and me. I since spent nights circling back, wet wheeling, thinning the Varner. That property, the haunted space, itself free. I thought in letting go I'd no detachment sight. The porch ferns fade, the hollies flames. I let it go. The house's roots, how we once loved each other. For a while when I belonged. How can I let what I habit, the dimming light, the room wherein she died, I died, and though I go its world and keep my sorrow slung, I thought one living structured lost alcove decay, the opened door and here the ponds pooling, I come dipped in the wash tub where cool hands bathed me. So why did I choose this poem? For one, I was intrigued by the imagery. I love nature, and I saw things that said daisies in the field and orange tree, and I wanted to keep reading. And with that intrigue, I was intrigued also by the haunting images that soon followed, like the dog's coffin, and I wanted to know what this poem was about. I also was interested in the structure. It uses dashes, and I wanted to see how that played out because I know that poets don't just do that for no reason, and so I wanted to dive a little bit deeper into that, which I will do as we continue this presentation. So in class, and whenever we go over poetry, we always look at the mechanics, and for me, when I do this, I think back to things like Don't Read Poetry and the ways that book says to look at poetry, and two of those ways are technique and difficulty. For technique, I saw repetition, and for difficulty, I saw the use of punctuation. So let's talk about that a little bit more. So for repetition, the phrase I thought is repeated 5 times, and it sets a tone. It's reflective, and it makes the poem seem like everything the speaker thought didn't happen. I know for me personally, typically when I'm saying I thought, I'm typically explaining my reasoning for doing something, and it's typically a mistake that I'm explaining. And I think that idea shows through in this poem as well. Using this phrase as well also takes the reader on a walk, and so I'd like to walk through that with you. The first I thought is in the very first line. It says, I thought that if we let it go, the property, we'd be unlocked. So in this part, the speaker is saying, if we let go of everything that is physically attached to the person that we have lost and the memories that are attached, the memories of that person that we attach to these physical things, that we will be unlocked and we will be reinvented. Basically saying we will be able to move past this grief. So the next thing says, I thought in prying, we'd know the home unhad, is nothing. So I thought in prying, open the framing, structure less the brickwork. So I took this as, I thought in really getting into the structure of what happened, talking about it and exposing it and being honest and having integrity when we talk about these things, that perhaps these people, this family, we can assume, would be able to know that even if they don't have the physical home where this person who has passed once lived, they can still be a family. Not having the home means nothing because they can get through this together. we could then get to I thought we'd be a we. And here we start to see that the things that the reader or the speaker thought were going to happen did not happen. And we see this as we continue, and it says, "But this despair has gashed the field of them and me." So we see that even though the speaker has tried to think of all these things to keep these people together, it hasn't worked, and there's no longer a we. And this, though the space is free, the house is free, the speaker is not. And we see that when we get to, "I thought in letting go, I'd no detachment sight." So the speaker thought that in getting rid of all these things and talking about it, we'd be able to see the end of the grief and the end of the sorrow. But really, this sorrow is still there. And we see that when we see, "Though I go its world and keep my sorrow slung." So though the speaker goes from this house, there is still sorrow, and it can't be pardoned, and it can't be left behind yet. Finally, we get to, "I thought one living structured last alcove decay." So I took this as the speaker is living such a structured life in all of this planning that when all of it goes away, they are the last to decay, and there is still sorrow. And the poem ends with this memory of this person, we can assume maybe the person who has passed away, bathing the speaker. And we know that it's past tense because it says bathed me, and so the verb tense shows us that. And it's interesting because in all of this poem we see how the speaker has been doing so much, but yet the poem ends with the speaker having something done for them. And I think about it as by the person who has passed away, and that really hits the nail on the head of what this poem is about. Is grief is hard, and we can't get those moments back, and we can't get those special things back, and we can't have those experiences again with the person who is lost, and we have to learn how to deal with that and how to process it. So lastly, I just wanted to touch on the punctuation. The uses of the dashes really does further the tone and adds to the feeling of grief. For me, it makes the poem seem frantic, and I read it as if the speaker is actually crying. I know that when you cry a lot, it can be really hard to get your words out, and your sentences can come out choppy. And I think that really fits with the idea and the theme of this poem, which is dealing with such hard grief. So thank you very much for going through this with me, and I hope that this presentation finds you well. And thank you again for sticking with me through this.